So what you're saying is that people will be visiting this region of space now, deliberately exploding warp cores in this way to get the perfect acrylic nails. Yeah.
That's, well, I mean, hey, that's what we would do.
It's totally worth it.
Uh-huh.
Captain's Pod, Stardate 1903-25.1. Welcome aboard the Starship's Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief short leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I'm your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always, nobody is quite sure of her canonical age, it's Ambassador Deneé.
How do you feel about microplastics?
I
mean, hi.
I don't like them being inside me.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that about many things, but I think they're an inevitable thing that is everywhere, sadly.
I didn't really expect you to answer that. That's great.
Yeah. I'm trying something new. I'm trying being direct when you ask me something completely. When you ask me a complete non sequitur, I'm just going with it.
I'm trying something new, not ignoring you.
Acknowledging your valid questions. This week kicks off the start of our fan favorite Star Trek season.
Well, before we get started, though, can I give a thank you to somebody on Blue Sky who sent me a message that I really appreciated?
Absolutely.
Because I was very nervous to hate on something so emphatically last week. But Scott had written and said that they liked what we had said, and I had mentioned on Blue Sky that I was like nervous about it, and they thought that I handled it very well. And I know that the chat also is live and enjoying it and being encouraging, but in the live moment, it can kind of sometimes feel like, bandwagonish. And I'm like, I just don't want to.
Of course.
Those were my real thoughts. They haven't really gone away in the last week. I still kind of feel the way that I felt. But this person listened after the fact and gave feedback. And I really appreciated it because I was super, super nervous because I don't think I have not liked something quite this much before. So even if you didn't agree, I'm sure people would give constructive criticism. But I just appreciate your feedback. So whether you're this person or you're any person, we appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. It hurts my soul to shit on something Star Trek, especially when it feels like the entire community is shitting on it. But there's a point where maybe it's just not a good product. Maybe that happened, and
maybe that happened.
But it's still hard to like keep pummeling it and just to be part of that noise. But yeah, your feedback is always appreciated, everyone. And with that feedback, keep sending us your top 5 favorites. Personal favorite Star Trek episodes. I'm continuously compiling this list, and we're going to try and hit as many as we can. Starting this week with season 6, episode 25. I can't keep the grin off my face because I love this episode so much. This is one that multiple people have sent in. It is Timescape. Just based on the title, Ambassador, give us one prediction for what happens in this episode. You can't just say time travel.
I'm just throwing.
I know your brain. I know it.
Okay. So the word scape in this could be landscape or escape, right? Like you escape something and get away.
Oh, nice.
Or there's like more of moving through time in a space that has lots of like land, or like you're on a planet or something. So I'm going to say that this is going to be centered around the passing of time in some way at a location. So it's more location based.
Interesting. I love that. You've just made me realize that I've been mispronouncing this title the entire time. It's actually Star Trek Tim Escape. It's not Timescape. It's Tim Escape. This is about, and it makes sense because there is a character called Tim that is trying to escape this entire episode, and I've just screwed that up. Love that prediction. Let's get straight to the holodeck and watch what has been decided by the fans. Because I polled all of them as one of their favorite episodes, Tim Escape. 2 to beam to the holodeck. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab something from the replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched together. Most important question first, Ambassador. What is your thing of choice?
I want space-time fruit.
I will specify I would also like space-time fruit, but at the non-decomposed end of the spectrum. I want it when it's still edible. I don't want it to be moldy.
Do you know what I loved about that though?
That he fucking touched it in the first place.
No, that it has to be a truly organic piece of replicated material for it to decompose?
Well, oh man. I mean, they do replicate organic things. So food, just because it's replicated, doesn't mean it won't go bad.
Well, yeah, I guess, but still, like, there's apples that I am buying now that I didn't realize were the genetically modified ones, and they do not go bad. They just sit there. And it makes me feel good. Like, oh, I bought those apples and they're still ripe. Oh, go me. But then 3 weeks later, I'm confused. Like, oh, did I buy those this week? I guess I did. And then I'll eat one. And it's sort of like styrofoam. It's like a styrofoam experience. And then I remember that I'm eating I really have to be careful with the apples. Like you can't just go mindlessly order apples. You have to read where they come from and how they're engineered now. Anyway, it just gave me a lot of happiness that in the future we are replicating fruit that will go bad.
We are replicating organic fruit that, yes, it's not, we haven't circumvented that just yet. It's all responsibly sourced. Ambassador, give us a synopsis.
Okay, so Timescape, the episode of Timescape, I'm not really sure which one of the characters was Tim.
The fruit.
They did not escape.
They did not escape. The fruit. It's actually the warp core. The warp core is trying to escape.
I would describe this episode as like a whodunit mystery.
I like that.
It's like I think if there's somebody that's wanting to get into Star Trek and they kind of want to get a vibe for what one of like the mystery episodes would be, this would be a really good one to put in that category. It's obviously a time episode, but the mystery of it is really interesting. It's also an interesting alien episode, and that we're introduced to this idea of an alien species. And there's a lot of presumption that happens while you watch this kind of episode, because we see images of a Romulan ship engaged in battle with the Enterprise, frozen in time. And this episode also, it'll subvert the traditional Star Trek lovers idea of what is happening in an episode. I can see someone who's never watched this to kind of go, oh, I know what's happening here, but then they even are surprised. So
there's some fun turns.
This is not really a time travel episode in a lot of ways. It's more of a time mystery where there's little pockets of time moving at different intervals. And that is because this time space continuum has been shattered. And the small crew of Picard and Deanna and Data and LaForge are all trying to figure out why. And they come upon the center of the issue, which is the Enterprise frozen in time, engaged in what appears to be battle with a Romulan ship. And they got to figure out how to save the day and save everybody, because this episode not only has like aging quickly, time going forward, time going backwards, and mystery, people that are going to die. It also has a frozen in time warp core breach and Picard losing his mind. This episode has just about everything that you want to see, including Data trying to figure out how to be human on a whole new level. That's my synopsis.
And Worf getting exactly the same amount of screen time and dialogue as usual. Overall thoughts and feelings, Ambassador. Did you like it?
Oh, yeah. This is an amazing episode of TV.
It's so fun, isn't it? It's such a great episode. I love it so much. It's so fun. It has incredible visuals. It has a fun conceit. It has moments of humor that we so rarely get to see in the TNG era. This, along with Cause and Effect and Best of Both Worlds, I think up there with the episodes I've watched the very, very, very most. I could comfortably write most of the script for this just from memory. I love it.
Wow.
And I could have asked the question, but I knew you loved this episode, because in the outtakes you will hear some of the ambassador's reactions, which were a pure joy.
Well, it was an odd watch in a way, because there's always a familiarity in watching TNG, since it is my most favorite television watching experience of my childhood, hands down. So, which is what launched this show. That's my only reference of Star Trek, and then Ian making me watch everything else.
Oh, love it.
So there's an odd sort of like, oh, this seems familiar. You know, before something would happen, I'd think, is that fruit going to go bad? And then it does go bad, but I don't really remember why. But then there was a moment when I definitely knew I for sure had seen this episode at some point, because when they're looking, so the core of this mystery is that there is a alien species that lays its eggs for incubation in time inside of black holes for their incubation.
Yeah. Which is just a cool, it's a
So
throwaway conceit, like concept for an alien that's just like buried in here. It's such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept. Also, though, for those of us who don't remember, apparently the Romulan ships are powered by a false black hole.
Yeah, a forced singularity. Yeah.
Which doesn't make a damn bit of sense to me, but I'm like, cool. Why would the warp core make more sense than that? I'm Starfleetist, apparently.
Yes, I think that's it. We're just the thing that it's like when you see dragon fruit for the first time, it's like, that's not a fruit. That's not real. That's not right. But if you see it every day, it's just normal. So yeah, I think we're used to warp cores.
Yeah. And so to think about other ships having different ways of doing things besides just the language looking different on the panels, that they're actually powered differently is really fun to think about.
Yeah, it's so cool. It gives so much more flavor and depth to the Star Trek universe.
Which is another thing that this episode kind of does well, which is go into this world of removing some of the Romulans, the bad guys, and not only introducing that they have this technology and sort of showing us around, but also subverting all expectations that they had infiltrated and were attacking, even so much so as the Beverly one, because Beverly is being shot and will die.
Yeah, there's some pretty conclusive proof there.
Yeah, but until they save that reveal until the very end as to why that person would be shooting, that's because there was this other being walking around. But anyway,
I have notes.
So
but
the person that is the alien species that has laid their eggs, they laid them inside of the engine of this ship, which drained it of all of its power, and then they had to call for distress, which reached out to the Enterprise, and the Enterprise beamed some of their energy to essentially jumpstart the other.
It's jumper cables. That orange beam is jumper cables.
Yeah. They jumper cabled the other one, which is going to kill the babies. So then the aliens who are kind of like watching the babies to make sure that they were going to be hatched okay, fire on the Enterprise, I think, is sort of to get them to stop.
Yeah.
And that is what we're seeing. And so all of those things are kind of explained in really beautiful, to me, it's a really beautiful example of storytelling, because it sort of like opens up in layers, and you get to reveal the deeper things more and more and more. So, but it's really fun to watch when you don't know what's going on, because there's just these moments where you're like, ooh, no way. No. And there's lots of gasps and excitement in all of these unique ways, even though it feels slower paced compared to some of the other shows we watch. It still had like mentally, I was really engaged with the mystery.
It's one of the things that TNG does best. The mystery episodes are some of my absolute favorites, because the way they develop and unravel the mysteries are invariably so satisfying. And you could say that every story ever made is technically a mystery, because there's this is strange and things develop. But the way TNG paces it, even when they're doing like the tech heavy exposition of let's change the tricorders so that we can flip around how time works, let's get the armbands so that we can actually go on the ship, the exposition from the aliens that are like, there are young, and I think it's accidental. I don't think they meant to be there. I don't know how clear he is on like how deliberate or accidental the laying of the eggs were, but they soon realized it was a fucking mistake. But yeah, even that exposition where he's just on a biobed and they're sat around him and they're just talking, I'm still, like you said, engaged, and like I don't need explosions or a ticking clock going off in the background. It's so satisfying. And one of my favorite lines is when Geordie's just like, these armbands are going to work, but we're going to need some time. And I remember this hitting me even as like a 10, 11, 12-year-old. Picard saying, well, Mr. LaForge, it seems time is something we have in abundance. And you never hear that. It's the exact opposite. There's always a ticking clock. It's like, damn it, Scotty, you've got 2 minutes to do this and it's going to take 5 hours. It was so like jarring to hear Picard say, yeah, take your time. Like, it's just to invert that storytelling device is so fun.
Yeah, I loved Picard in this episode. There's so many notes that I have of really loving watching his performance. And I really don't think it's because I am biased. I really think he does an incredible job of I don't know, maybe it's just like his face or his way. For me personally, he just makes me believe so many things all at the same time with just these simple things he does. He's an incredibly talented performer. The first time that it really struck me was when they were looking for the Enterprise, and he's looking out the windows and he sees it.
Oh, and he sees his ship.
Yeah. And there's just this power in the way he's like, there she is. Like and it wasn't even like that. Like the way that I performed it was more like frantic. He was confident and like now there's like a hint of relief and energy, but then also just this love and the way that he's looking out at it. And they're pretending in some place.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where they were. Yeah.
They're just told, look over there.
Yeah. Look out the window and say this,
Yep, this is where you should be looking. I mean, the downside is that Deanna points out some damage that is in the wrong place, but I don't care. They're still like I'm always stunned when they have to pretend to be looking at something like the warp core breach that's not there. Just everything is in their imagination, and it's almost like they're actors and they're really good at their jobs.
Yeah,
but it's so good.
I've watched some things before that they are actors and they're doing their job, but there's not that feeling of
authenticity.
I don't know, reverence.
That's a good way to put it.
I don't know what happened in TNG, but they make it really, really real by what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like there's rarely an actor that comes on for me that doesn't seem like they're just totally bought into this.
I believe they live on the Enterprise. This is their life.
And maybe it's because everybody is a super nerd and they just like, they want it to be real so bad. Or maybe it was the directors, or maybe it was their process of being hired. I don't know.
Well, at this point, they have been doing this for going on 6 years, 26 episodes a year. Yeah. They are doing this probably 10 months out of the year, 2 months off, and then they're back. This is their lives.
It's their whole life.
Yeah, they're probably on the Enterprise more than they are at home.
Yeah, and we were talking about this. I remember watching the first few episodes of TNG and like their camaraderie and their experience together had not quite gelled, but you could still feel that they had found something inside of them to project forward and do their best to make it look real. And here we are in these really strong paces as a team. Yeah. It was a very seamless episode to me. It felt really seamless. I mean, I have some sins that we'll go over when we get to that section, but for the most part, like Picard in this one, the unexpected twist of him bursting out into creepy laughter.
I couldn't help but watch you for all of those when, like, I know that the shot of the Enterprise and the Warbird is going to appear, when I know the cloud moment is about to happen, that I couldn't help but watch you because I like those moments are so fun.
It was like, no, we can't lose him like that. He's cuckoo bananas.
He shouldn't be laughing. And he's laughing off screen for so long before we it catches Data's attention, the laughter continues, and then he just, it's a close-up of Picard, and then it pans out to the smiley face in the cloud.
It was definitely the last thing you expect to see. And what's interesting is you're like, okay, is it one of the alien bad guys that we now know is unfrozen and just there to do something? And we think that they might be unfrozen Romulans, but turns out they're the alien, the birthing aliens in disguise, or they have invaded the human species, which, by the way, that's fucking freaky.
Yeah, terrifying. Like, enemy number one. Everybody should know about these aliens now.
Wow. They can invade a body, take it over, and just walk around and then peace out and die. But anyway, my initial instinct was, oh, it's a bad guy that's like, ha 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 ha, I got you this time. Or like it was going to be a bad guy reveal. But then to see your beloved hero as the potential bad guy, you're like, no. There's this thing that happened. There's an actor. I'm not going to remember the actor's name, but he always played a very gentle, sort of strong man in everything that I had seen him in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
he had a very similar character in multiple things. So whenever I would see him in something, I'd be like, oh, that's nice. I like this guy. I think he played something in Green Mile once and he was like the nice jailman or something. Anyway,
Tom Hanks.
I would go along with him on a movie. And then one day I was flipping through the TV channels and I saw him and I was like, oh, I'll watch him. And he was not an okay person in that one. This was this heroic character in my mind that he had encompassed and performed in multiple things, kind of the same archetype, but then quite suddenly he was playing a horrible, manipulative murderer. And the way that it plays out is he eventually reveals that he is this way by having this horrible scene. And I was on my couch, like having some sort of a visceral reaction to this breaking down of I had been violated.
Your universe had been shattered.
I trusted you. And so ever since then, I've been really sensitive to some of my favorite actors.
When they change.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if I want to watch you be that character or person that I have put on such pedestal. And Picard is one of them. So when he like all of a sudden goes, hey, like this cuckoo bananas, I'm like, no, we're not going.
We need to make sure you never watch Green Room, which is a movie with Patrick Stewart where he plays a racist skinhead. So let's never do that for
exactly.
you.
Exactly my point. No, and it's got to be weird as an actor to kind of know that you get stereotyped or you get like put or cast typed rather. You get cast typed into like putting you play the same thing over and over again. But it is because the greater audience has suddenly become quite familiar with this part of your acting, and you're now comfortable with them. And to break out of that, sometimes
it's so fun to subvert that. And there's another, because I mean, season 1 and season 2, Patrick Stewart was very kind of like reserved and not sure if he really wanted to be there. And then by this point, at the end of season 6 and season 7, we are so comfortable with them and they are so comfortable. But you still have like Picard is the stiff rod. He's the one that steadies the ship. So even to open the episode with him doing an impression of somebody, like I would watch this episode just for that cold open where he gets to do the nobody had a chance to interrupt. He just kept on talking and talking in one incredibly unbroken sentence. It was really quite hypnotic. It's so fun. He does a voice.
Yeah. The opening sequence was quite nice. I know we jump around through the episode quite a bit, but this was him sort of showcasing, and maybe the writing deciding to showcase that at this point in the journey, there's this casual drive back home before technically they're still working, but it's the casual drive home working part where they're just sort of point A to point B. They're technically on the clock, but this was that more casual thing. And we usually see it around like a poker table or something, but this was reflecting on, the conference, which it was interesting though to remember that in this world you still go to conferences.
It feels very real, doesn't it? They've all been sent to a conference. They will have like their own little seminars, and the conferences were just as boring as they're perceived to be in the real world as well, with Deanna being bored out of her mind, Picard the same, and just Geordi being annoying because he actually had a good time.
Yes. But I think that's good though to know that you still go and collect with your peers and learn something, and that was kind of there's just this nice bit of shows like this that do little things to remind us why it's part of reality, because so much of it is just science fiction, and we don't have aliens that are planting babies inside of wells that we know of. I mean, on a microscopic level we do, but.
Well, let's swing back to the beginning of the episode and hit some of the scenes that I think I know I loved, and I'm pretty sure you did as well. We open with the continuing escapades of Riker in sickbay. At this point, there have been multiple occasions where the episode just opens on what shit did Riker do this week to get injured. There's one where he's been rolling around with a date and has like cactus spikes in his back, and Beverly's just there pulling cactus spikes out of his back. There's another episode where he has a broken rib because he should have ducked or something. And this one is just, he's attacked by a cat. I love it so much. And it's like starting off strong with some humor, but also telling us that the crew have gone away. And I like starting it on the Enterprise and not returning back to the Enterprise for a while. Like, you get your established footing, you have the Romulan distress call, which plants the seed of, I mean, even Worf saying it's the Romulans, it could be a trap. It's already putting stuff in your head about, oh, it's those pesky Romulans.
Yes. And there's a few things I like about the opening of this too. And where it starts to kind of feel unsafe for me too is not just the mention of the word Romulan, but when Worf says they claim to have had, he says the word claim. And that one word can say so many things. And they do telegraph it by following up with, well, it could be a trap, but Worf saying they claim, just adding that one little adjective or that one little detail
Don't trust the Romulans.
Should tell us everything that we need to know about this distress call. And it does put me a bit into this sort of uncomfortable moment where well, when is Picard going to get back? 13 hours. Oh, okay, well, let's go ahead and go and do it. And you're like, no, you don't leave without Daddy.
No. And is this actually going to be an episode without him as well? Like, is this going to be one of those where Riker's in charge? But we quickly head over to the runabout, and I love everything about this scene of them eating around the table. Are they eating? I think they're just drinking tea around the table, aren't they?
No, I think they have some food as well. I think Deanna is coming back over from the replicator.
Yeah, that's it. And one of my favorite things, again, is Brent Spiner, his subtle reactions throughout this scene where he's missing every joke. So Deneé, I do this every time, Deanna is explaining.
I am essentially...
You are
a magical creature like she is, though. So thank you.
Deanna is explaining how a famous xenobiologist is asking her wink, wink, nudge, nudge about mating techniques, which is the accent she does is hilarious. And Data's reaction of, well, did you say yes? Just how he misses everything cue and is so innocent. It's so good.
Yeah. I was watching that really. I'm sure this was lost on me when I was little. 100% sure this was lost on me. But what was really interesting is that I thought that this was a Deanna telling her boss about this sexual attempt but no, because right after that, I think it was Data's like, well, aren't you interested in that? And there was a moment where it's like, he actually is one of the biggest researchers on this specific thing. So I think in the writing, they are trying to validate that there is this person who is studying, the scientist who is studying this particular thing. So it might not be as perverted, but it certainly comes across as having a lot of perversion potential. But then they write that one line about like, no, this was legit. He really is doing this
Would you
study.
care to join me for some empirical research?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if you write that today, that guy doesn't get defended. I feel like that was a lived experience that maybe one of the writers put into
that was an interesting moment, and also completely lost on Data, who is looking around at the end of the episode. There's more of an understanding, the kind of bookend a bit of what Data is doing in this scene. Like, obviously he's missing some of the nuance of what, like this, the undertone of it. But what he's actually doing in the scene is thinking about the perception of time, which you don't have the confirmation of until the very final scene. It's such a clever way to write that.
It's genius. It ties everything together. You've got all of them thinking that time was dragging. And just how that ties into that end scene, as you said, is, oh man, it's poetic. It's so easy to put like random bookends on these things, but it's so deliberate in this.
But Data's great in this scene, especially when he offers to replay the part that she fell asleep for. I can actually play that for you if you want. I'm just completely missing that part
you've
too.
Missed the point. And did you catch when Picard does his like monotone impression and Data like snaps out of it?
Yeah, he was sort of hypnotized.
It gets me every time. And I remember being young, I was like, wait, he's an android. That shouldn't have worked on him. And I'm like, there's something different about Data, and it's hilarious to make him be the one that falls asleep. And I buy it. Like, if that doesn't work on anyone else other than Data in that moment snapping out of it. So funny. Love that. And this, if the episode hasn't already hooked me, it immediately grabs me and says, this is an episode for you, Ian, when they start bumbling through time anomalies and everyone around the table freezes and Deanna catches it. And then the reverse happens. Yeah, obviously have the credits and whatnot. And then the reverse happens when she's talking to Picard and she gets frozen. The reason I love that happening so quickly is that it draws a line under, was Deanna imagining it? Does Deanna have to prove herself? Because sometimes these episodes can spend so much time not believing the one person who saw the weird thing happen and finding other reasons. But they quickly, by reversing it and having Deanna be frozen and everyone else see it, it's immediately, nope, something weird is happening, let's get to business. And that's for me so comforting, because we don't have to, we know it's happening. So throughout this episode, we're basically on the same level as Picard, Geordi, Deanna and Data, discovering the mystery at the same time as them. I love that we don't have any extra knowledge.
I do too. And it honestly, it pulls you out of the boring, us getting into that boring moment of watching characters recount their boring conference, because at some point this has to end. We have to stop talking about this. And for it to just end on Geordi describing what a plasma feels like. So you're kind of like, oh, this is interesting. And then he just sort of freezes. She looks over and sees that everybody else is frozen. We've talked about how intentional it seems for the writers and the creators of the Star Trek content at this point in time, specifically to really focus, it seems to me, to focus on taking things seriously. And that is fascinating to me, because of course we would dismiss something, but to stop when someone says this strange thing happened to me and go, we got to figure that out. Oh man, I want to be with those people. I want to be with those people.
And heard it's so cool.
To us, it's a flippant thing. We know it's fake. There's part of our brain that's automatically putting in the whatever category. But to watch the characters take it seriously, and not just once, they keep trying to figure out what is going on. And at the point when, I think Data and Geordi kind of go to different consoles to begin to do different analyses of different things. And I really liked that part. Picard takes Deanna to the table to ask her to recount it once more. And again, that just makes me the happiest person, because the captain is wanting to know more about what had happened, even though there was zero evidence. And she had started to even question herself. And so she begins to recount, and then cleverly we see the next shift of the frame, and then she had been frozen for multiple, like 3 minutes or something like that.
I love that. It's so jarring for us as well to see it from her perspective on both occasions.
And this is when they scan for the temporal anomalies.
And I love the next step of this, which is there are mysteries within mysteries within mysteries. And this one, they're setting a course and they're like trying to navigate to the Enterprise as soon as possible because this shit is weird. And they suddenly get thrown into a spin. And the logic is there from the beginning, because they're in a spin because only one half of the nacelle, they find out, has used up all of its fuel. So, I mean, it sucks that they apparently have 2 different fuel tanks, but whatever. But half of it has run out because it's completely empty, and it throws them into a spin. And they have to figure out why only that nacelle. Is it a problem with the computers? And just each bits of these things that happen to them gradually lead to this shattering of subspace that they're flying through. And I love that. And each one is a fun thing that happens to them that progresses the story, but is like sit up straight and watch thing, like the ship going out of control, Picard screaming in pain because his hand has been aged by a couple of minutes, by the way, not the months.
No. That was not an aging field. That was an acrylic nail field.
It was an instant acrylicizer? Acrylicizer? Right. Yeah. And immediate glamoring.
I'm telling you, if that was just happening in America, somebody like that's like what happens when you give somebody a drug and they have an adverse effect. Like, we're trying to cure glaucoma, but oh look, your eyelashes are growing. So now we're going to make this eyelash growing material and everyone can have long eyelashes, but they're not going to read the fine print to realize that one of the side effects could be that your blue eyes turn brown due to the glaucoma medication.
So what
Because but so it's like, come to our salon. Well, an adverse effect of this timey-wimey bullshit is that you have beautiful acrylic nails in just seconds.
So what you're saying is that people will be visiting this region of space now, deliberately exploding warp cores in this way to get the perfect acrylic nails. Yeah.
Hey, that's what we would do. And
it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. Yeah, I love that. And it doesn't spend too long getting through the mystery before setting up the next thing as well, because they figure out they're going through the different like elements of time bubbles and whatnot.
They do the right thing by showing us a visual of what they're talking about. Up to that point, it's sort of an imaginative, hey, we're seeing it sort of in this conical shape over here or whatever. And then they pull it up onto the view screen and we can see these sort of spherical moments, and they begin to very carefully navigate through them to avoid everybody getting like really messed up, obviously, either aging too fast or stopped aging, et cetera, et cetera. So they're able to come closer to where the Enterprise should be, and then they have to look around just a little bit to find them. They can't find them with the sensors because they're frozen in time, essentially, although Data figures out they're not frozen in time. They're going so slowly. The only way to find out that they were actually still accelerating is because of a warp core breach that they come across that's going much faster, but they had been scanning the bio the bio stuff.
Yeah, I think they were just doing like a visual observation, and then he's able to pick up that the cloud is expanding. What I love, this is one of the coolest visuals in all of Star Trek. It smacks you in the face when Picard spots the Enterprise, and then you go to the wide shot of the Enterprise and the Warbird with clearly the Enterprise has been beaten up. There's disruptor fire aiming towards it. There's another beam coming. It is such a dynamic shot that is frozen. There is no movement in it, and yet there is so much going on. And it's immediately sets up this new mystery of how the hell did this happen? And just like, I'm baffled by how fun it is to be able to do this and just like freeze a moment in time, because we all love phasers, we all love space battles, but you can't have a whole episode of it because it would be too much. So you just appreciate the visuals as they happen. And this is such an organic way to freeze that visual and to just soak it in and really appreciate it. And it's a beautifully put together shot. I love it so much.
Yeah. And the emotion, like I mentioned earlier, building from Picard. I mean, when he says, get us to the Enterprise, he whispers it.
Yeah.
And he's just so passionate. And then he's, so it's just really, really cool. And then he says, there she is. And you can just feel his intensity, and they're frozen in what appears to be a battle, which we find out later is not a battle, like mentioned at the top. So it is so cool to see, though.
I do want to shout out one of your in the moment predictions.
Okay.
They're talking about, how they're going to solve the mystery. Basically, they've got to go over to the Enterprise to figure out what the hell is going on here and try and save the day.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, we can't go over there because we'll get frozen. And you're just like, I'll put on some like temporal armbands or something. And I'm like, what the fuck? You must be like pulling that memory from the depths of your core.
Maybe so. Although whenever he pops the little armband panel, I almost died. I was like, oh my God, they have an armband panel.
Of course they do. Never before seen, but here we go. What I really like about this is one of the rare occasions where they refer back to a previous episode. So Picard mentions we used a phase discriminator on Davidia 2, and off pod, me and you watched Time's Arrow. And there...
You mean Tim Mesereau?
No, I don't. I do not mean Tim Mesereau. And their Data has to be the phase discriminator. And he phases and shifts so that he can see the Davidians that are floating around.
Yeah.
And that's what Picard says. We need a phase discriminator like the one we used on Davidia 2.
I missed that.
And it's an easy line to miss, but that was the opening episode of this season.
Well, to be fair, if he had said, like we did with those weird aliens that ate energy out of their heads, I would have remembered what he was talking about.
Yes, that's fair.
The snaky aliens.
Yeah.
Like, but instead he uses the proper place, the Davidian. Like, no, I don't remember the name of the planet.
You don't remember Davidia too?
I remember.
Gosh dang it.
I remember them traveling back in time and stuff. The Headless episode?
Yeah, the Headless Data episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Say that, Picard.
But isn't it hilarious that that's the thing that he holds on to? Not the fact that Data lost his head. Because the most memorable thing for me was the face discriminator.
It's just like, hey, remember when you lost your head? Let's do that thing again.
Let's do that thing that happened that time. But I love that. It's a little callback. And there's another callback to another episode where they're talking about Deanna having spent the most time on a Romulan warbird. And
yeah. What was that about?
Yeah, so that's referring to an episode called Face of the Enemy, where she's kidnapped by Romulans, turned into one cosmetically for a spy mission, basically. So she's on there for a few days. So that's like, it's the back end of TNG where it's just like, fuck it, we're just going to reference other episodes. I know we're not supposed to because of syndication and whatnot, but we're going to act like this stuff actually happened because it did. So yeah, I think that's really fun. That.
I like how Troy doesn't say, thanks for reminding me of my trauma, Captain.
Oh, a hugely traumatic episode for her. Shit goes
I can
sideways.
imagine so, being captured.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have to figure out how to get onto the ships next, and they decide to start by going over to the Enterprise, and we're getting immediate reports on what they can and cannot do. I'm a little bit iffy on what they can and cannot do and how they can and cannot do it.
Me, the script, the episode, everything. Yep.
Because they're like, we can't move things, and then they move things, and then I think they said that they can't move things, and
they said they can move things, but they can't interact with the panels until Picard presses some buttons and it boops.
Yes.
They're supposed to only be able to show the current information that's displayed.
Nope. He
Picard immediately boops. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. It says nothing is working, but they can use the computers. And then, of course, they have another major sin, which we'll get to later. They split the party and they decide to go their separate ways, and kind of we begin to see these different variations of the puzzle piece. That was really fun for me because when they get down to the transporter bay, and where Worf is now playing the role of of O'Brien.
Yes, he is, because they're beaming over dangerous people.
And they're coming through and they look all injured and such. And that's when I was like, wait a second, they look like they're injured. And then Picard is doing the same thing. Well, if they're doing this, then why is this here? And they begin to sort of, and then at that point I'm thinking, well, if the Romulan ship is firing on the Enterprise and their people are on the Enterprise, why is that happening? So at that point, you're asking questions that they're also asking and just thinking something is really strange here. We find out that Beverly has been shot. So if we start time up again, that's not looking good. Data finds the breach in the warp core, but probably the biggest oh my God moment for me is when the fucking Romulan moves.
Oh,
this is the first time we get to see her. And I was freaking out. I was like, what is going on?
I really, 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 really want one day to be able to play the recording of you reacting to this episode to the person who wrote the episode, because it must be the most satisfying experience, because it was satisfying for me as someone who knows this episode inside out. I'm completely blind to it. I don't know if this is amazing stuff or just something I love because it's time travel and it's Star Trek, but listening to you at every one of those moments, asking those questions, experiencing it, I'm like, nah, this is a great episode. This is so good. They get to the Enterprise and all it is more confusing evidence that sets up the Romulans and then contradicts that setup. Because why are we beaming sick Romulans over that are unarmed if they're also attacking us? And why is there a Romulan in sick bay that just shot Beverly just walking around? Like, why is there somebody on the bridge at the con station? Like, and is that Romulan trying to kill Riker? What's going on here?
And then whenever the unfrozen Romulan starts, who is the alien in disguise,
which is just so great.
But their expression is like so surprised, scared, and diabolical all at the same time.
Everything.
So it gives away that they're not okay with them being here. And then we just don't see her again for a while. Then we see the other one. And that's there's two. Super clever. But that's when we get to the Romulan ship. But on the Enterprise, and I think I'm going to do a little bit of like what I loved with the frozen stuff, but then also reference what happens in the future. This must have been a fun day on set.
Right.
Right.
And it's so well done. Kudos to the extras, because this isn't all. I think nowadays 99% of productions would green screen it and have literally a frozen frame that people are walking around. Yeah. And they do that with a couple of shots, but only when it's like the close-up of Geordie when he's frozen and Data and Picard at the very, very beginning on the runabout. Yes. That's a freeze frame, obviously.
Right.
But when they're walking around, these extras are doing such a
they're doing
stand-up job, literally, of just staying still, not breathing, not blinking.
Oh, it's
and
so
it's
fun.
So organic. It's so much better than doing it with green screen. It feels like they are there with the frozen crew of the Enterprise.
It does. Ugh. It was so fun. And like when Deanna walks on the corner and she comes face to face with someone, and then it sort of just slow zooms in, and the whole time you're just thinking, don't blink, don't blink. In fact, I think I was saying that, like, don't blink, don't blink. And
because they're doing this deliberate close up and hold, they got a good take, or else that shot doesn't make it into the episode. No. So you're like, oh, I'm going to appreciate this because I know she nailed it.
But it happens with everybody at the consoles, when they're sitting on the bridge, when they're down in engineering or over or behind or wherever engineering is, when they're in engineering, all of these different places where the crew is in the Jefferies tube, they're everywhere, and they're just doing life, and everything is frozen. And I think that would have been a fun time on set where, like, I wonder if, because I know that recording and filming things is very expensive, and so encouraging silliness is probably not happening from anybody because they're trying to stay with their budget. I just imagine if it was me and there was just limited resources, it'd be really fun to try to make people break character that particular day.
Oh no, don't you dare.
It would have been so
Michael
fun.
Dorn, just like get behind his neck.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a really, really fun whole series of events. And then I'm going to skip forward and say this. When Data is then there later on to try to restart the timeline and then prevent anything bad from happening, and he's walking through the crew.
Yes.
I want to watch that scene back, because I think, I am not certain, but some people were actually walking backwards and some people walking forwards. I think what they did was they had him walking through like he went backwards while everyone.
Interesting.
So to us, it looks like he's walking forward and everybody else is reversing. Forward. But I think when they actually did it, he was walking backwards through the room. So anyway, I want to see that.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And I love that little moment where he's at the console, looks around because he's in the path of somebody, just casually steps backward.
He has to kind of pause.
And then forwards again. I love it.
It looks really, really good. And all the frozen stuff was, to me, very, very believable. And I thought everyone did a great job.
Really well done.
Anyway, back into kind of like the series of things. So they are realizing very quickly that something funky is going on. And then, we land on Data having found the warp core breach. And they're all in serious trouble. And they're starting to kind of like problem solve. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? Et cetera, et cetera. And that's when Picard draws a little smiley face in the warp core steam and loses it. He loses
steam. I wish it was steam. I wish the warp core was steam powered. I love that so much.
What is it? Is it just it's
coolant. It's usually coolant or I don't know. That it's smoke of some sort because it's exploded. And I love the way choosing Data to deliver a line always adds something to it because he's so matter of fact. So when Picard is like, what can we do to stop it? And Data's just like, it's not a matter of stopping it. It's happened. Past tense. The warp core has already exploded. Just because it's doing it slowly, it doesn't make a difference. Like, this has happened. There's no undoing this. And I love that. It hits home so quick that this isn't going to be a conventional solution. You're just lucky enough to be on the Enterprise at the flashpoint where it hasn't consumed the entire ship. It's so impactful.
It did help anyone who watches these episodes to go, oh, that's not how they're solving this one.
Can't you just push it back in?
Yeah.
I love that so much. Eventually they get to a point where they've exhausted all of the options they can. Obviously they've beamed back to the runabout after Picard's temporal psychosis nitrogen bubble episode, and we get to go onto a Romulan warbird, which is the next really fun bit, because I'm like, the first time other than Face of the Enemy, we get to really see the inside of like the bridge of a Romulan warbird again. You do get a really good look on Face of the Enemy, but it's nice to go back to those sets because it's such a rare opportunity to see multiple Romulans, an entire Romulan ship, the engineering section. It might be the first time we've seen Romulan engineering, actually. And of course, my little nerd brain just loves that so much.
Yeah, they have to go there to figure out why this transfer thing is going on, now knowing that the breach is happening. And this is when we get to see that on the ship, several things occur. One, they figure out that the babies are in the well, in the warp core well. Two, they actually find out a lot, don't they? They figure pretty much everything out here.
Yeah, a lot happens in engineering. Yeah.
And then they also, by scanning it, they do a forward and reverse situation. So 2, we get to see that time begins to go forward, but then it kind of like undoes itself somehow.
Yes.
And then 3, we learn that one of the other Romulans on the ship is one of the aliens, and he very cleverly goes back to stop them by freezing himself.
Oh, I love that moment so
ooh, that was so much.
It is so creepy. And I remember as a kid, it would like, even though I know the moment is coming, it would like get my heckles up like every time when Geordie's just like, wait, he wasn't there, was he? Boom, gets jumped. It's the perfect way to do a jump scare because he's just figured it out, putting the pieces together, and it's like, oh, fuck it, I'm in the wrong spot, and it just has to jump him. I love that so much. It gets me every time. It just, it's so creepy because I just put myself in Geordie's position of what that means. Like, you found a discontinuity, and then before you've had time to realize how bad that is, you've been attacked already. It's so great. Much better than him just getting attacked.
We are back on the shuttle and interviewing the dying alien who goes ahead to reveal the most important aspects of confusion, I think.
Yes. Spell it out for us.
The fuck is in that well?
Yeah, what's the little dust particles that we've got going on there?
So he's not native to our time continuum. And so basically his young are dying and they're just trying to incubate it. And the power transfer has to stop or it will rupture time, not just destroying the Enterprise, but everything. And also, of course, destroy the young. And he also reveals that there's one other. And Picard assumes it's a he.
Of course.
Shame on him.
Of course. That's the script saying it's definitely a he, even though you know it's a she.
Wink, wink. Yeah.
Yeah. Technobabble. They come up with a plan where they all have to be in different locations so that they can reverse everything and get back to normal. I love that plan. It makes so much sense. Everyone's in their specific locations. And I love the rub that they pull it off completely great, apart from the most important part, which is Data gets moved out of position before he can prevent the power transfer from happening, which just gives it that extra bit of tension. Okay, the solution is just move the runabout and disrupt the beam, fine, but it's still scary because you had one job just to stop that power transfer, the most important job of any of them, and it's the one that gets fucked up. I love that so much.
Yeah, things do not go as planned, which is great because then we get to see them use their intuition, their knowledge, their confidence in themselves to solve the problem. I thought, because there was an idea when they were coming up with their planning to create a shield and like launch the warp core into space, but then it would have to be a shield that would be like outside of time somehow. And so I thought what they were going to do is start it up, make the shield there, and then launch it. So when things immediately went wrong, I was like, ooh, they're going to do my plan. No, they're not. Nope, we're going to blow up a shuttle. We're going to blow up a shuttle, and that's okay with me, I guess.
We're just going to put all of the armbands together and wrap them around the warp core. I'm pretty sure that works.
By our powers combined, we are.
Captain Temporal. Yeah, I love that. Everything gets bandaged up and put back to normal. And we end with... you could easily cut this from the episode and just end with Picard saying, I'm afraid, Commander, it's going to take a little bit of time to explain everything that's happened. But instead you cut to the humanity of the episode, which is Data assessing his perception of time given everything that he's just gone through. And this was another confirmation that this is an excellent way to end the episode because of your cackle.
Oh my gosh.
You love this moment so much.
The very end when the kettle boils and perhaps he'd already turned off his
Yes,
time
he had at that point.
calculation.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Because I don't know if, did he do a gesture or anything, or is it just like
he
in
just
his head?
Like twitches and says, "Thank you, Commander. I will try that."
Okay.
And he's done it. Yeah.
Right. So, but then the kettle boils and he just looks at it super suspiciously with like his eyebrow going up, like, what the fuck was that? And it was just so good.
It's so great.
Data is such a great character.
He is such a great character because the experiment is flawed, and it takes a human to point that out. Like, you're judging this with an internal chronometer that is like incredibly precise. Guess what? Humans don't have that. Switch it off. And immediately he's like, oh yeah. Wait, what? Fuck, that kettle's boiling.
But Riker came in with the schedule and leaves with the reminder, you need to still be on time. And I loved that too, because I think sometimes maybe there's a part of me that forgets that Riker is business.
Yeah.
Like, he fucks around sometimes and he has character and he has charisma, but he's still very good at what he does. He came in going, I brought these to you for evaluation, da 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 da. And then he's like, yeah, do that, but don't be late, So I really appreciated the ending to that, because I love how Data thinks, but it's not Data, it's the writers. I love how this show thinks. I love how
use each character. Each person is talking for a reason.
They know their audience is human and trying to find their place in the show.
Yeah.
And so after doing all of this stuff, it makes sense that we are needing to be reminded about what the show could be hinting at or could be wanting us to consider. So this is a fun adventure. It's a fun mystery. It's fun to see Captain Picard do these different things by laughing maniacally and crying out in pain, and very expressive. He's got so much expression in this episode that's really unique to his usual stoic nature. So that already makes it a standout. But then it ends with a reminder of like this android attempting to understand why we talk about time the way we do, and that it is different for everybody. A day can be it's the same amount of time, but it can feel longer or shorter, just depending on the person.
Yeah.
And like this podcast, you guys might be like, wrap it the fuck up, but
this is one of our shorter episodes. Yeah, exactly the same. This is a great episode to start this season with, because for me it is the definition of like fan favorite. It may not be like asking the most important psychological philosophical questions, but it is such a comfort episode for me. I watch this episode at least once a year, probably more. It's just, I know I'm going to enjoy the next 45 minutes if I spend them watching this episode. And that is such a comfortable thing to be able to do. And it's such a gift that TNG has given me personally, and clearly some other people out there that emailed it in as part of their list. Before we move on to the sins, I'm just going to run down your predictions. The one you made at the beginning was time travel, but based on a specific place. And you're right. Yeah, this was a different time travel story based on a location. So kudos for that. In the moment you said, it's a creature that fucks with space-time. Kind of. You were pretty close with that. Like, and that was like when they were still on the runabout and going through, you figured out that obviously the show tells us that it's moving through different parts of the ship, and you're like, it's an alien that's doing it. I love that just as much as what actually happens. Oh man.
So I was when they were first on the shuttle and they're like, okay, part of it is over the table right here, and it's a different time that's over here, and it's drained into cell over here. I was thinking that we had like this massive invisible alien creature,
time goblin,
like a jellyfish or something, kind of like floating, and it just kind of stays there. And then they were just passing through the tentacles.
Yes.
And so they were going to have to figure out how to get through the tentacles. That's what I was thinking at the very beginning.
That's the Strange New Worlds version. Let's just do this story again. Strange New Worlds, make it a space tentacle. Love it.
Yeah.
And then your last one was, well, you predicted the armbands a few seconds before it happened. And then when they mentioned the Jefferies tubes, you were like, that's a terrible idea. People are fucking in there.
That was... Okay, I didn't say it like that.
I know, yes, you did.
But I did.
But I didn't. Go to the outtakes. It's same breath. She's like, people are fucking in the Jefferies tubes, and they got frozen, and they're going to find out now.
Oh, shit. I did say that.
Yeah, you did.
So I was kind of right, but also kind of wrong.
Yeah, you didn't predict the threesome that was about to happen.
It was about to happen. Amazing. Somebody was going to... Never mind.
Before we do sins, Pips Ambassador, how many pips?
All pips.
All of them, it's 4 pips from me, no surprise. You're going to be seeing a lot of 4 pip episodes this season, my lovely crew. With that, let's head over to engineering for a warp core breach. Battle stations red alert.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sim brains, remind ourselves that no TV shows without sin, even our beloved Star Trek, especially the time travel episodes. I'm going to go first, and this is at the very beginning of the episode. Twofold. Why is the phaser so easily accessible in sickbay? And don't fucking throw it at the doctor. Stop throwing phasers.
That was one of mine too.
Why is it even there?
Well, I can understand. I think like every room having a phaser bank somewhere.
Yes.
And that sort of makes sense for how many times a month.
I'm
or
sure
every
he just pops it open though. He doesn't enter a code.
Like they're reporting back to Starfleet is how many alien invasions came, how many unauthorized onboarding situations happen in 1 quarter, you know?
Per quarter, exactly. This is how many phasers you need.
I can believe that there's like a little a phaser panel on the wall, but just casually chucking it, I cannot get behind.
And the way she holds it, like aiming at herself, I'm like, I guess that could be foreshadowing, but still, don't do that.
She held it like it was her trying to figure out a Rubik's Cube.
Yes.
Like, oh, what is this puzzle in front of me? What is that?
This isn't a medical tricorder. I'm not usually allowed to hold these.
Don't twist that like that.
It's amazing.
Put it down. My first one is going to be if a cat scratches a human like that on the forehead.
Yes.
That cat needs to not have a bunch of people coming in to see it. Like that was fucking wrong. It was 2 scratches on the forehead. I don't even know how that happens when I don't understand exactly, but holy shit, that was like a bobcat situation, not like a little spot cat situation.
That was deadly. He could have been Nick Fury so easily. He could have lost the entire eye.
He could have been Nick Fury. And as somebody who has survived cat scratch fever before and almost died, cats are fucking dangerous, even house cats. You don't have to make them do that. You could just nibble a fingertip and you could die.
Yeah. On that note, Riker says, next thing I know it, there's a hissing ball of fur coming at my face. Title of my sex tape.
Wow. Oh no. All right, I'm going to move on to the, it was mentioned in the chat multiple times, but there's literally you'd better come take a look at this. And while it was happening on screen, I said out loud, cliche, because that was exactly that moment. So we'll take the easy, since you're going to do the easy sex tape one, I'll do the easy cliche one.
So this is one that has always bugged me from the very, very beginning. And this is when the table on the runabout, they all freeze in time. Deanna.
And no one notices that she stands up.
No one notices that, because no time has passed for them, suddenly out of nowhere, with no motion at all, she's bolt upright leaning over the table. And Picard, who's at the end of the table looking at her, okay, maybe Geordi missed it because he's in his story, but Picard should immediately be like, fuck, what? How did you do that?
100%.
And yet he does not.
I will send Deanna fainting and it not being because she suddenly phased into a new time kind of ability and sensed everyone's fear on the ship, which would have been a great reason for her to faint. Like,
yes,
having her faint because she is overwhelmed makes way more sense, and her equilibrium is a bit fucked up, which should have also affected the men in the room. But having a woman faint,
lady has to
I'm
faint.
really sensitive to that, but
it's always bugged me. Like, I was like, of course it's Deanna that fainted. Thank you.
Artificial time, playing a trick with your equilibrium, fine, whatever. But
it would have been hilarious if, like, if Picard and Deanna had immediately just fainted and hit the deck, but Data's the only one that's just like, I'm fine. Like, even that could have been like a comical moment because they both like immediately pass out because it's too much. Jordy's like, I should have warned them about that. My next one was don't touch the fucking fruit. Why was your first instinct to touch the fruit? Why did you touch it? You have tricorders. Scan that shit. You know something's going on here. Don't test it with your fingernails.
He wanted acrylics. Yeah. I would have loved to have seen them try to do like more aging makeup on the hand also.
Yes.
You know, but I'm just pull the skin down really far. Try to see like all of the bones in the hand kind of be more exposed.
Oh my gosh,
like really,
yeah.
really pull on it and then like kind of give the aging spots and stuff potentially, but it's just the nails.
Here's
Just the nails.
Other problem, and this is a shout out to Phil Farrand, who wrote the book, The Nitpicker's Guide for Next Generation Nitpickers. And this is a book that I've read inside and out. And this observation has always stuck with me. And it's genuinely one of the reasons that I love doing CinemaSins, is like finding these technical discontinuities, and they spell out that time is moving 50 times faster in the bowl of fruit.
Right.
Picard has his finger in there, let's say, to be generous, 5 seconds. So times 5 seconds by 50, you've still only got minutes. Like, it should have been more like 5 million times faster.
Yeah.
Like, to show the amount of aging that was happening on that hand. And yeah, I remember reading that observation in the book and being like, they got something wrong. They got something wrong? Because when you're a kid, it's just like, wait, but this is real. They should know that. So yeah, I've always loved that observation.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
When we beam onto the Romulan ship with our away team, they are startled because there is a Romulan reaching for them. Turns out it's a frozen Romulan.
Yes.
And they're just kind of like, oh, okay, you know. However, there's nothing over in that area for that person to be reaching for aggressively as they did. There's no one standing behind them. There's not an explosion. I don't even think there's any wall panels back there or anything. It was just kind of like obvious setup is obvious. Yeah, obvious staging is obvious kind of a moment. He was like very aggressively like kind of pointing and leaning and lunging forwards, but there was really nothing, at least that I could see for a reason.
Maybe they were reaching for the alien.
Maybe so.
Potentially, but it's not. Possibly. That is not explained. That is not spelled out to my recollection. I've always thought it was odd that nobody notices when time is moving backwards. No one notices Picard or Data, especially in engineering. Nobody. Like they even
I've
in
got that written down
reverse.
Too.
Yeah, in reverse, they should have been like.
But it goes forward and then revert. It like. It starts up and they're going forward. They're actively talking about what's going on.
Even when they go forward, they don't get noticed.
They're not noticed at all. And I didn't think it was because they were outside of the time. I thought I didn't think that it was that they were not there.
I didn't think it was because of the wristbands, because Picard's still wearing a wristband at the end when he talks to Riker.
And he's still wearing, well, it might not be working at that point, but
maybe
because they're all kind of caught up.
I guess it could have known to turn itself off.
There's potential that they are sort of, as David Ellis just said in the chat, out of phase or something like that. Like they're kind of like left of center, which is, was that how it was in the previous episode that was referenced to?
In Time's Arrow? Yeah.
Okay. So they might be in a different phase of time. It wasn't very clear.
No.
But the only people to see them and interact with them were the aliens that were also a bit out of the time because they're the time aliens.
But then I would assume that there's a second where they do line up, where Data blips into existence and then disappears when they catch up with each other. Because if you're going forwards and then backwards, there's a time where you are at the right time. And I feel like at that point, it would have been like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah, and it also doesn't make sense because Data, whenever they do catch up to the right timeline, like they are immediately seen.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something inconsistent there, but
a little bit of inconsistency there. But same kind of an idea of why can we be seen and not seen? So, I think this might be on the same kind of topic, but I was also confused by they were able to beam the alien over to the shuttle to have their conversation about the babies. In the well.
Yes.
And it was because he was not native to the timeline that they were able to do that?
I guess because he has a built-in discriminator that allows him to ignore time somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how I would really go about setting that and make it sound smart, but that was also confusing in that same kind of
It's convenient if nothing else. This one might be argumentative. Why does Beverly touch her stomach?
Because she had an intuition.
Yeah, that bugged me a little bit because time gets reversed. Deanna moves her out of the way, and then afterwards she's like feeling her stomach where she would have been shot, but she hasn't been shot. So I guess
maybe she saw the direction of the phaser and kind of assumed, or maybe it's kind of like when I see ice cream or shrimp and I know it's going to hurt right here in my body, and I'm like, I'm gonna feel this right here later.
Like, man, that could have happened, but it's so jarring because it really feels like she feels that she's been shot, but she should have no knowledge that she was actually shot. So I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah. That doesn't. You're right. I mean, to us, that doesn't make much sense.
No.
Okay. I have been asked to steal one in the chat, and I'm gonna read it verbatim. This is from Sarah Superior, who says, "I have a grievance about the man who spoke about ionization in the cells." Oh, here we go. At the psychology conference, how did he get in to present at a conference? To present at a conference, you submit an abstract that aligns with the topic of the conference, and they accept you, and then you can go and present. Did this man just roll up on the conference and start waxing philosophical? And she has been, just for the record, so pissed off about this stupid conference for the entirety of the show. I want to thank you for writing that out.
Thank you,
because
Sarah.
You're not wrong. And the fact that no one stopped him, there's so much of an opportunity for someone to raise their hand and go,
not if they're talking like this in an unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic. So yes, he could have easily been interrupted at some point, but I just assumed this was a conference of covering multiple disciplines. Because
I think, but this one was specifically supposed to be about psychology, and he was doing, or opposite. He was supposed to be doing one thing and did the other.
Because the interesting thing is everyone there is expecting to see him. The problem wasn't that we had the wrong professor. It was the right professor talking about the wrong thing. So yeah,
that's the bit submitted his notes first.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, that's what's really confusing is how did he give the wrong lecture? Yeah, I get that now. Yeah, that's confusing. This is another just a little nitpicky one that's really bugged me, and I love talking about this because at Timescape I've known longer than most of my friends, so it's nice to air this grievance out. It's the lack of reaction from Picard when the Enterprise explodes. He watches it very matter-of-factly, and then it reverses and puts itself back together. But I never read anything in his expression that's like, oh, my ship just blew up with all hands on deck. Like, and even after the fact, he's like, oh, I just watched it explode and then put itself back together. And I don't know. I know it's Picard and he doesn't show a lot of emotion, but I wanted something a little bit more.
I wonder if they also didn't tell him what was happening in that moment because he's watching a green screen and might not know.
But his next line is, I just watched the Enterprise explode. But it's more like, I just watched myself stub my toe. That was interesting. I want something more out of it.
Yeah. Shock man.
I just watched 1,000 people plus Romulans die.
Yeah. I'm going to send myself for saying that the word claim was an adjective earlier when it was in fact a verb.
Yes. Can something be? No, that's still a verb. She said it claimingly. Would make, if you want to adjective it. The way Worf delivered that sentence was very claimingly. No, I can feel my English teacher trying to find my current whereabouts.
No, I was just wrong.
Yeah. I only got one more sin, and it's the fact that space kettles are still fucking slow. 51 seconds is an obscene amount of time to have to wait to boil the kettle for your cup of tea. 51 seconds it takes that kettle to boil. The Enterprise isn't America, Deneé. The Enterprise should be better.
Yes, it is. It's
51
America.
seconds is clearly American. Like, clearly, kettle technology has not advanced any further in 360 years.
I think that was the point, though, is that he had replicated an old thing to boil the kettle.
It didn't look. So why did he replicate a kettle from 1996? Why?
For the experiment, for fun.
Why does that matter? That's one extra variable.
He's an android trying to understand humanity. Why does he do anything he does?
He's trying to understand humanity in the Dark Ages, not the advanced people that can actually boil water within 30 seconds.
What he should be doing is constructing a small little campfire and then like hanging hanging a pot over the top and then like lighting the fire and just timing all of that, because then it is very different.
Well, you know what? Curing cancer or something that his android brain should really do. Yeah, I know they've already cured cancer, but curing sneezes or something.
My last one I'm stealing from chat from David Ellis. This is because it's such a nerdy thing to say. Fuel for each nacelle isn't stored separately. It's stored centrally at the warp core. The fuel would have drained for the entire runabout if the starboard nacelle ran for 47 days.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it shouldn't be let the fuel run out. It should be it's deteriorated, or it sounds like there's wear and tear as if it was running for 47 days. The individual fuel being held in the nacelle, that's something that I only hear in this episode. That's it.
Yeah. There you go.
Yes. So, I just got really nerdy for a second there. Surprising.
Oh, that's what the show is. We're supposed to try to be nerdy too.
Well, I was just about to reach for my runabout model to show you what I meant and realized that was unnecessary. You didn't need
because this is a podcast.
Because this is a podcast, and also you don't need me to do that, even if this was visual. I mean, you can go to YouTube and watch me do this if you like.
But you know what? You can go ahead and do that. And while you grab that, I do want to say that a sin removal that I want to give for this episode is getting to see the inside of a shuttle. And yes, there was a sin, I believe, from runabout. There was a sin from David about maybe the size of the interior being quite off. But I think that there's enough room in there for a small little table set up kind of in that back section. Anyway, I loved seeing the inside of this set. It was super, super fun. There's a moment when they're looking out through like the front kind of glass section over the nose, and you're seeing the backs of the chairs and
with all of the like cables pumping out of it. Like, what are those cables doing? And you still don't have seat belts. You've upgraded them.
They're obviously air conditioned and heated.
Clearly.
Clearly.
Pumping. Clearly they have their own fuel tanks.
They've got their own thing going on. I just love it. It's fun to see other sets and what they do with the sets.
It really is. And it's always like it tells me that this is a later episode, because the runabouts were mainly used in like Deep Space Nine because they needed bigger ships than just the shuttles, and the runabouts are quite expensive. But yeah, I love that.
Also, off this episode was apparently directed by Adam Nimoy's sci-fi brony, who is Leonard Nimoy's son, I believe.
Yeah. Grew up on the bridge of the original Enterprise.
I bet
quite
they
literally.
I loved it. I loved it.
Did a great job. Great job. With that, before we wrap up, we've got time for a very, very quick email. Okay, hailing frequencies open, everyone. It's time for us to read your messages from Discord, Twitch, and, well, email. This is a quick correction from Nick, and there's a reason that I've chosen Nick Jagged specifically. Nick, this is referring to, I think it's the season finale of Lower Deck season 5 or episode 4, Fissure Quest, one of the two. And we're talking about Curzon. I mistakenly said that Curzon had not appeared on screen as the person that we saw the animated version of him as. And we do actually see Curzon look like that old man in the first episode of Deep Space Nine as he's dying. So there is, when Lower Decks decided to animate Curzon in that way, they pull it directly from what that actor looks like in the first episode of Deep Space Nine. So it's a really, really cool bit of continuity. And I wanted to include that correction. Also, because this is a great opportunity for a second email from Paulie, who I'm not going to give any specifics, but specifically asked to give Nick Jagged a shout out on the pod and to thank him for facilitating his ability to watch the 5th season of Lower Decks. We shall give no more details other than that, but Paulie is extremely grateful for Nick's assist in that regard.
Look at our little community coming together.
Community helping out each other.
If you feel like joining another community out there on the internet somewhere, you can find all of these folks at our Discord, which is discord.gg/CinemaSins. And when you join it, there's lots of like little channels you can join, and there's one specifically for Captain's Pod.
Yes, there sure is. That brings us to next week's episode. Again, pulled from your fan favorite emails, is going to be Star Trek The Next Generation Relics. We are staying in season 6. It's season 6, episode 4. That'll be your homework for next week. And as the ambassador said, if you want to join us, go to discord.gg/CinemaSins. Send in your favorite episodes of Star Trek. I'm asking for 5 from everybody if you'd like to partake. Your 5 favorite episodes of Star Trek. Reach out to us on Blue Sky or by email, captainspod@cinemasins.com. And if you want to catch us live, we'll be broadcasting on the CinemaSins Twitch channel and on YouTube Live next Monday, the 10th of February at 1 p.m. Central Time. Ambassador, is there anything you'd like to plug before we disembark?
Anything? Oh, yeah. Actually, I do have something to plug this time. I've decided to soft launch my own podcast for the first time in 20 years. I'm really excited about it and also very, very nervous. It is in beta testing. And what that means is I'm putting up little clips of audio for people to listen to and give feedback on. The idea of the podcast actually launched from Star Trek, but it is not a Star Trek podcast. So I think we've told the story before, but my daughter was looking at a book with Ian and wondered who this character Spark was. And so we joked about Search for Spark, and the title just kind of clicked in my head. And the way that it sort of manifests is that I have tons of things I could talk about, and I have people telling me all the time that they would listen to me talking about anything, and I could talk about anything, but that doesn't help me to stay focused. So I am looking for the spark in all of these conversations and ideas. So the podcast is called Search for Spark. Right now, it exists only on Patreon, which is completely free to join and listen and give feedback. There's a video, there's a deeper audio clip from like a parenting perspective, because that's what was on my mind that day. And then there's another one that is me reflecting on an article about creating habits. And there's going to be more. I will try to post at least one audio clip a week as I get into the rhythm of creating this content. And then once I have the idea kind of fully fleshed with you guys and get some good feedback, it'll become its own podcast, and I'll update you again later. But if you want to find it, you can go to patreon.com/search-for-spark.
Yes. And until next week, it's one long, incredibly unbroken sentence moving from topic to topic from me.
And from me, it's what Riker should have said to Picard, which is, Captain, respectfully, what the fuck just happened?
Live long and Podspa.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Test, 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 test. Boom, boom.
Timmy.
Timescape.
Timescape. Ooh, that was scary.
Oh, you're in. Hello. What was scary to the computer? Did you get an Elkar's golem? Did it happen?
Why would you wish that on anybody?
I mean, I'm just saying it's a believable thing
Especially
that might happen.
me. You're supposed to like me, at least a little bit.
Shit, I get so confused.
You get confused whether you're supposed to like me or
No,
not. Oh,
no,
God.
shit.
Oh,
Fuck.
God.
Cut.
It says Copla. Look at that. I was getting there close. It was QAP. Oh, I was almost there because I was about to say the P part. Success or victory. Look at that, guys. Seriously, David says it says Copla.
Kapla. You're saying it wrong. Deneé is saying Kapla in an American accent. You are Kapla.
Copla.
Kapla. Kapla.
Is that? I know how to say it. It's Copla. Copla.
It sounds like a car that you buy. Yeah, I've got a Ford Kapla.
Copla. I've got to put the emphasis on the second syllable. Kapla. Kapla.
Kapla. Short ka. Heavy pla. You speak the lies of okay.
Oh my God, Sarah, this is killing me. Okay, I'm gonna.
Kapla. Kapla.
I love how this is meant to help, and it might. It's like kapla. So it's kla.
No, it's not
That's
what
what
it
that
is.
says.
No, what it is. No.
That's what. How is this anything other than the kla? Sorry. Go on. Silliness is probably not happening from anybody because they're trying to stay
Especially
with
when
their
you're
budget.
doing it, you're doing it on film as well. You're not just digital. Like you are physically using up a resource every time you fuck a take up.
Right? Yeah. And so, did you just say fuck a take up?
Fuck a take up? Well, every time you fuck up a take. Well, you know, every time you fuck a take up. Yeah, that was right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't. You know what? Let's run with it. I love it. Okay.
I think that's fine. Every time you fuck a dude up, if you're gonna fuck a dude up, every time you fuck a dude up
on film. Every
time you fuck a take up on film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm gonna set my tree recorder to rewind. Wow. This is off
your
the
tree
rails
quarter.
now. I'm gonna set my tree recorder to rewind.
The ends have entered the chat.
Oh. Next week is going to be
Oh, that's a great episode.
Shut up. I just realized that your banner was in the way and it screwed up my timing. This is all your fault.
No,
Here we
look
go.
at that.
I can't wait for this. I'm so excited. Fuck!
It was warm and there was this amazing tingling sensation that
Data.
Oh, what a cold open. I love that.
Do not eat that.
I mean, right? You know what else you shouldn't do?
Why are you touching it?
Fucking touch it.
Why are you touching it? Why'd you fucking touch it? Oh no, what happened? Oh, he's got it all loose. Look at his old hand. Oh, he's wearing acrylic nails. Why? Why is this time thing giving you acrylic nails?
There she is.
My God.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh no! But oh shit! Ah! Hey, I'm fine. Oh man, frozen at battle.
How cool is that shot?
So fucking cool.
In each of the 3 instances, we came into contact with one of the temporal fragments. We were integrated into its time frame.
if we beamed aboard the Enterprise, we'd be frozen.
You'd
in
have
time
like a
just
little
they are.
wristband that he lets him
Well, we
move
have
through
to find some
time.
way of staying unfrozen. Mr. LaForge, what about a subspace
a
force
subspace
field?
force
Like the
field,
one
that's
we
right.
used under Vidia 2.
There we go.
Understood. We'll use the Jefferies
Oh
tube.
yes, the
Let's go.
Jefferies tube where if somebody's in there, you really can't get around there, buddy. The Jefferies tube was the smallest corridor you can consider.
Right.
Oh my god, what if they find 2 people like fucking in there on
Oh my gosh. You know someone has got their pants down and was frozen. Not
Yeah,
everyone's
right.
on
Like,
duty.
yeah. But they're gonna do it in the Jefferies tube where no one can find them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh look, there is someone there.
Look at that.
Who's being shot? No. Oh shit!
Yeah.
So they were getting people on board that were not doing well because they're coming off of their not feeling well. And Worf is definitely not concerned. So they're bringing aboard people who are ill. And then they're tricked.
Excuse me, Mr. Wolf.
Great mystery, isn't it?
The answer to that question, mate.
He's not supposed to do that. Oh! I mean, that's something I would do.
Yes.
Just don't be late for your shift.
Oh my god.
Fucking eyebrow.
Oh my god, that is so great.
Huh.
What? What? Huh?
Wait, what?